So you should be able to see my screen share in Discord if you notice it there. You should be able to click on that and see my full screen of OBS. My screen might look a little bit weird to you because I have an ultra wide monitor, so it's going to be an extra. It's more than 16 by 9. It's like 22 by 5 or some weird aspect ratio. So that's why it looks a little bit strange to you, possibly. But anyways, this is OBS. OBS stands for Open Broadcast Software. So the full name of the program is it's OBS Studio, Open Broadcast Software. Could you mute your mics? Anybody that's in here? We're getting a lot of feedback. I think Revy, I think that's coming from you. I can mute you. I'm going to mute you for now till you mute yourself. So this is OBS. So let's start with a very basic overview of what we're looking at. I want to take it kind of nice and slow so we can kind of see what all the different elements that we have on the screen are. So right out of the gate, we have, of course, on PC, which I'm operating on Windows 10, we have OBS Studio up at the top. It's telling us it's a 64-bit version, and it's telling us the name of the profile that I currently have selected, and we're going to get to what that means. And then also the scene name, which we also have up there, which says workshop. And then we're going to get to what that means as well. Underneath the title bar, we have our menu from File, Edit, View, Profile, Scene Collection, Tools, and Help. It's pretty standard. Then we have our screens on the left, our screen on the left, which says Preview, our screen on the right, which says Program. The preview is going to be the window that you're going to look at if you want to see what's about to show up on the screen, and program is what shows up on the screen after you transition to it. So if you've ever seen anything about how television studios are run or news shows are run or whatever, that's a pretty standard thing to have, like what's about to be on the screen as opposed to like what is currently live on the screen. So the program side on the right-hand side is your current live stuff. The preview on the left is your preview of what is about to come on there. Underneath that, we have another thing that says no source selected. That's because we haven't added anything yet. You guys can see my mouse pointer okay on the screen. Is it okay? I can increase the size of it if it's helpful to guide you guys. And then we see properties and filters. And so this is just a little title bar here for the source area right here. And we'll explain what that is in a moment. We also had some buttons in between the preview and program, and we'll get to those once we talk about the operation of the program a little bit more. Down in the bottom left, we have a little box. It says Scenes right there. And right there, it's created one scene already. So there's one scene already included. It's just named Scene, and that's how they go. We have a plus, a minus, and an up and down. There you can change the order of what your scenes are. We could remove this scene if we wanted to, but it's going to give you an error and say there needs to be at least one scene involved. So over to the right of that, we have sources, and it says right there, you don't have any sources. Click the plus button below or right-click here to add one. So we can add whatever sources we want. There's tons of different types of things you can add into this as a source. That includes, but is not limited to, just a pure audio source. So you could have like an MP3 playing, for example. You could have a browser window. You could have just a solid color block. You could have your entire monitor show up. You could have a game that you're playing. You could have a picture. You could have a slideshow of pictures. You can have a green screen from, this is like the Intel version of that. And there's other ways to add that as well. Media source, which is just video. NDI source, which is something that is a specialty kind of source addition, which is something you have to use if you want to add, for example, live Skype stuff into it. You'd have to use NDI source. Scene, which is like the transition to another scene. You can put text, live text that you can change at any moment. VLC, video source, which is another way to show videos on this. VLC, if you're not aware, is a really, really great free and open source video player program, and that's built right into this. So any video stuff that you want to do, that's built right into her. Video capture device, which of course is going to be your webcams or other cameras hooked up to your computer. And window capture, which is simply just a window on your computer. And then we also have a group which we can add, which we can nest other things inside of. So we can have other things inside of a source. Like, for example, if you had some text and some graphics and whatever, you can have an overlay inside of that, like that little folders to keep things organized a little bit more. In the middle, we have our live controls. Right here, we have a button that says Start Streaming. We have Start Recording, Start Virtual Camera, Studio Mode, Settings, and Exit. Those are all pretty simple items, and we'll explain them in depth as we get further. Over here, we have an audio mixer, and you'll see that is completely empty. That's because we don't have any sources added to OBS currently. And on the far right, we have a thing that says Scene Transitions, and that is fade, and it has a number of milliseconds. And you'll notice that that corresponds to the center portion that we talked about earlier, and that controls the transition from preview to program. So you could actually have things fade in if you wanted to, but you can also have them cut or fade to black or whatever. There's all kinds of different little things you can add in. Now, that's kind of a basic overlay or overview, I mean, of the entire program itself, just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page. Now, the different aspects of this program, the most important aspect is probably down here where it says Scene and Sources. So scenes, what are scenes and what are sources? Well, we kind of went over this earlier, but sources are any of these individual items. So it's any one of these individual things that you want to add in. So for example, you want to add in a browser window like a website or something, you can do that. You want to add in an MP3 that plays when you have that website up on the screen, you can do that. And those are all your different sources. So you can add a bunch of different sources in there, and then all of those sources grouped together are included inside of a scene. So a scene is basically just a collection of sources. And we're going to get into exactly how that works. But first, I'm going to show you some examples. So if we go up to the top here, we got our menu up at the top, and it's always good to be familiar with what kinds of stuff you got going on here and any hotkeys that might be there if you accidentally hit them. For example, full screen interface, that's a common one, especially with browsers. People accidentally hit the F11 key, they go full screen, and they're like, I can't close this thing. So that's a good one to just remember. And you'll notice here that we have all of our docs that we talked about earlier. We talked about all of our different little things, our scenes, our sources, our audio mixer, our scene transitions, our controls, so on and so forth. So we can customize all of that much like you would with Adobe Adobe Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop or any of those programs. You can choose how you want all of your information to be displayed so that you can use this program in the way that you want to. Now, scene collections at the top and profile. Those are the two things we're going to be talking about first here. So profile is about basically your network connections. So profile basically is saying, how do you want this to connect to the internet? And you don't have to have it connect to the internet at all. You could do whatever you want with it. However, this has a built-in ability to connect to different services such as Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and one that we use a lot called Restream.io. Restream.io is a free website, and that provides basically it's like a branch out. So you send your source, you send whatever video you want to show, you can send that to Restream, and then Restream will in turn send that to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, all of those different places simultaneously. And from Restream.io, you can then monitor the chat of your broadcast and see all of the different people chatting from all the different locations. So that's definitely a good tool to use if you're not aware of it. Restream.io, you can check that out online. And oops, let me get a new window here, so I'll bring that up for you. Let's see, might be logged in. I'm definitely logged in. Let's see, what am I logged in? Okay, so I do a show with with a friend of mine called Meltdown Island, and this is logged in for that show currently. But you can see how destinations is the default kind of look that we have here, and it's listing off all these different choices. There's Twitch, there's YouTube, there's Facebook, there's Periscope. You can add a whole bunch more. There's a lot of different sources you can add. Billy, if you're if you really want to tap into the Southeast Indian market, you can do that. There's tons of different places, including Steam or, whatever, Mixcloud, LinkedIn even has it now. So yeah, there's tons of different places you can stream to. It is 100% free for the basic functionality. It does require a subscription for some of the more advanced stuff, but really I found the subscription for the free stuff to be mostly great. Mostly all I need is just to use it for the free stuff. So this has the ability to do that, stream it to multiple places. So when we are setting up a new profile in here, it's basically going to ask us some questions. So I'm going to go ahead and hit profile. I'm going to hit new, and it's asking us for a name. So I'm just going to name this workshop test. And I just put in all caps. I don't know why. Anyways, it says show auto configuration wizard, which that's fine. It's great. We're doing a workshop. Let's see what the auto configuration wizard says. When I hit OK, we get a window that pops up. That's Auto Configuration Wizard, and it's asking us, do we want to optimize it for streaming? Recording is secondary. Optimize for just recording. I will not be streaming. I will only be using the virtual camera. So there's 3 different things you can optimize it for. I would just leave it on the first one, optimize for streaming. Recording is secondary. It's not that big of a deal. Video settings, specify the video settings you'd like to use. You can choose your base resolution, so whatever you want that to be, whether you want that to be HD 1920 by 1080, or if you want it to be 720p, or if you want it to be lower or whatever, depending on your internet connection, depending on your equipment or whatever, you might want to change that. I just use the regular 1920 1080 and have it stream out on that HD 1080 resolution. FPS, also you can leave that alone. It's 60 or 30, but prefer 60 when possible. So that's all going to be dependent on your own personal equipment and your own personal internet connection, because you got to make sure that your internet connection is fairly solid if you want to use OBS as a streaming platform. And I mean, it doesn't need to be like a super fast gigabit connection. It can work on a lot of different connections, and it's very forgiving. However, you need to make sure that your connection is not suffering from any issues. Like, my mom's house, she had an issue with, or still has an issue with WOW, where they refused to replace the line from the pole to the house, and it was like a big thing. She finally had to convince them to do it, and they finally did it, but it took like 4 tries of getting them out there. So you guys are all familiar with internet problems. That's, I'd say, the one thing to make sure you don't have any real specific problems with your internet connection. Then it asks you to choose your service, and here's where Restream.io comes into play. You can choose that, or if you wanted to just go to Facebook or YouTube or Twitch or whatever, and then there's even a show all there, which gives us even more. So there's tons of individual sources you can choose from, or you can choose from a like Restream, like I said, that will give you the ability to send it out to multiple sources. So let's just choose Restream.io for an example. And then it says connect account or use stream key. Now, this is a pretty cool thing that they've recently kind of built into this. We can click on connect account, and it will automatically bring up the web page in a little window for Restream.io. Let us log in with our email and password. We can go to Restream.io, create a free account, and just put in the credentials here, and then take care of where it's streaming to in the world. If I don't want to do Restream.io, let's say I just want to do YouTube. I shouldn't have hit all sources. Look at this. It's ridiculous how many things there are. There's even Vimeo now. YouTube, and we have YouTube HLS or RTMPS. YouTube is got those 2 different versions because there's some websites that need what they call a stream key. A stream key is basically saying, hey, program, I trust you. You can connect with this person's YouTube account and do live streaming. And then it's asking us to, we want to get the stream key. Basically, if you just click it, it'll take you to the YouTube live dashboard, which I'm not going to go through all of that right now because we're not actually going to be streaming. And most of this is all pretty simple. Like you can just type into Google, where do I get a stream key for Vimeo? And then, Google will tell you, hey, just click here. Log into your account, you can get the stream key, and you just copy paste it right into this thing. So this auto configuration wizard, the big thing about this is just basically kind of setting up your basics for where you want it to stream to. and it's kind of creating a profile for yourself so that you could have multiple things. So let's say that you do a stream for, I don't know, your church. Maybe you do a stream for your church, and then in addition to that, you do a stream for some friends that play D&D, and then in addition to that, you do a stream for unboxing videos. And all of those are separate things. So you could have all three of those in OBS, and you can switch between them by clicking on whatever profile you have created for that individual thing. So that's basically what this whole auto configuration wizard does. And so I'm not going to get too much further into it. And in fact, I'm just going to hit cancel because there's pretty much nothing left to do after that. And that kind of creates your profile, but that sets up where you're streaming to. That's the important thing to remember about that. So you have your profile and you can choose from it. And if you notice here, the choices that I have for the profile is the workshop test, which we created, all caps, stands out nice. I have another one that I created called test previously. I have another one that I created for the on this Discord. I don't know if you've seen it before, but I run a show called Strange Cinema Saturdays, and that I use that to run the entire show that I do on Discord. And I'll show you some of that later. Meltdown Island, like I said, is a podcast that I do with a friend. KQN is another project that I'm working on. It's like a comedy news show type thing. So I have a few different examples to show you guys as we go down. But as you can see, it's all pretty self-explanatory, how to remove or how to add different profiles. You can export them if you need to take it to another computer. So you and your friend can both share the same exact profile for your OBS. It makes it nice and easy. So we are now in our profile, and you can tell because it says profile workshop test up at the top, and then it says scenes workshop, right? So let's click on scene collection, and you'll notice that I created this scene collection of workshop previously, but we have these previously created scene collections. Now, don't be confused because some of these scene collections have the same names as some of the profiles. The scene collections are separate. So the scene collection is representing basically a number of scenes over here, and then inside of each of those scenes, they will all have different sources. So I named some of them the same as my profiles because that's how they're tied together. For example, I'm not going to have, I'm not going to have Sandwich Talk be on the profile for workshop test because if I hit start streaming, it would not work. I need to make sure that my profile, the proper profile, is selected before I am able to stream whatever scene collection I want. So let's take a look at these scene collections and let's see how they look. And you're going to see a bunch of graphics on the screen. You're going to see a bunch of different stuff. We're going to look at what scenes are created for those. And then we're also going to look at what the sources are and kind of get an overview of what kinds of things are possible with this. So let's go to Strange Cinema Saturday. So this is the thing that pops up when I start it. Now it looks like kind of a wild mess on the screen right now. And that's because the first part of this video, I let it usually play for a minute until I start the stream. So this is if you notice, on the left-hand side where it says scenes, it says pre-show. And this is what I have playing on the pre-show before I start any of the actual show. So I have kind of just this running with some nice 1970s synth music from Wendy Carlos, and it just kind of goes like this for a while. Now, how did I do this? Let's look at the right-hand side where it says sources. You'll notice that I have a bunch of different sources listed there. Some of them are named better than others, but they all have a little eyeball on them, and they all have a little lock. Now, the eyeball allows us to turn off certain layers that we want to get rid of, or turn them on so that we can see them. Let's turn off each layer in turn and watch what happens on the screen. So that's the VLC source that I turned off. I turned off one called Old Hollywood. Now I'm turning off DMT. Now I'm turning off SCS full screen. And now I'm turning off Media Source 5. And now I'm turning off space. So you'll notice that on the left-hand side, that's the only thing that was affected, right? So the stuff on the right, it's still the live program going out. So if we were streaming currently, we would notice this button right here, this start streaming would be lit up, and it would have a little live marker down here in the bottom right corner where you see live is. Or if we were recording, the time would then be here, so we'd be able to see a little red light up icon here, and then it would tell us the time would be going by. And then to the right of that also, while we're here, let me mention, you can tell exactly how much CPU usage is being used and what your FPS is, your frames per second. So right now, currently, the current stream is this Strange Cinema Saturday video layer on the right-hand side. And that's currently what is being played. So this would be live on YouTube if we were streaming to YouTube, and this would be currently going, and people would be able to hear the music. They'd be able to see all of the different visuals combined together. Now on the left-hand side, let's start by turning these items back on. VLC video source, I'm turning that on. I guess is that something? I don't know. I'm not even seeing anything there. Old Hollywood. So that's a video that I found on YouTube of some scenes from the golden days of Hollywood, and it's just kind of a bunch of random weird footage of old stuff. You'll notice that the top source that's selected right now, it says VLC video source, and you'll notice that this bar above it has changed. And that bar is now showing you the length of the video that you currently are watching and where you are currently in that video. And it also gives you some rudimentary controls for controlling your video, where you're able to skip to the next one in the playlist if you have it, stop it, pause it, whatever you want. You can do filters, you can do properties. We'll talk about filters and properties in a moment. So you'll notice that this video that's being shared right here, this Old Hollywood one, well, actually, let me turn off this Old Hollywood one, because we have this one source right here, VLC video source, and that one currently is the only one playing on the left-hand side. However, we're not seeing anything, so I'm not even sure if I remember why I added that in there. So let's take a look and find out what it is. So I'm double-clicking on it, and oh, so that's why we're not seeing anything. It's because that's the music. So I'm using VLC to play two different directories full of music. And you'll notice that I have loop playlist selected and shuffle playlist selected. And then also visibility behavior, always play even when not visible. And then if we scroll down, we see where it says playlist, and these are two different directories that have music in them. So it's choosing randomly from a selection of MP3s within two different directories and playing those for us. You'll notice below that we have another item. It says network caching, we have audio track, we have subtitles enabled, and we have subtitle track. None of those are really going to be anything you're going to need to mess with for this. So let's close this little window for our VLC video source. Now, that was kind of stupid of me to have that there without it having a name that made any sense, so I didn't know what it was. So why don't I take this opportunity to rename this thing and call it music. There we go. So there, I've renamed that music. It's currently on. If I didn't want to have that music on, I could easily turn it off with this. But you'll notice that it's not changed. Can everybody hear the music, by the way? It doesn't matter, really. No? Okay, it doesn't matter. It's pretty quiet on my end anyways. However, if I were to turn this off, it would not turn the music off until I hit transition, which takes our preview and pushes it over to the program side. So right now, our program side is exactly what you're seeing on the program side. That's what would be streaming to YouTube or being recorded on your computer or so on and so forth. However, you'll notice I have music highlighted right now, and of course, this bar that we talked about previously, we see that this is ticking along. If I did want to jump to the next song, I could hit this, and then that jumps to the next song, regardless of me hitting transition or not, because it's affecting the live playing of the current music that's playing. Hopefully that makes sense. So, in order to get into that item, that source, all I did was double-click it. I don't think I said that earlier, so I apologize. But yeah, all you have to do is double-click it, and you will see the information about that item. So any of these sources that you want to change or modify or do whatever with, you can just double-click it, and it'll automatically let you jump in to change any of the properties. So the next one on the list is Old Hollywood, which we can see is another video. You noticed that earlier. I'm going to turn that back on. There it goes. And these are all locked right now, which also means that I'm not allowed to move them around on the screen. So if I'm trying to move things on the screen, it's not working. So let's double click on Old Hollywood. And you'll notice here that it's giving us a preview in that top window up there. And we have some other boxes that are checked here. Local file, loop is unchecked. Restart playback when source becomes active. We'll explain that a little bit later. Use hardware decoding when available. That's always helpful to take some pressure off of your CPU. Show nothing when playback ends. I also have that selected as well. It's just my own personal taste for how I want this video to play. And then you'll notice where it says browse, that's where that file is located on my computer. I just hit browse and I found it, and that's pretty much all I did, and it showed up in there. And then I just made sure that these were corresponding to what I wanted to happen when the video played. So let's hit cancel on this because I didn't really change anything. And let's go back to it. And below, or actually, let's stick with Old Hollywood for a second, because now I want to show you what are called filters. So what we were just looking at, these are the properties, okay? So this is the properties. When you double click on any of these items, what you're seeing is the properties for that source. That lets you change things like the actual video file that you're referencing. It lets you change the fact of whether it loops or not, you know, so on and so forth. So with this Old Hollywood, or with any of these, we double click on it, we get properties. Now, let's see what happens if we right click on Old Hollywood. And we get a whole litany of different things here. And this happens whenever you right click anywhere in the sources box. The very top item is add, and we've seen that before. It's the same thing that you hit when you hit plus. Group selected items. We can make things go into a folder if we wanted to, so we can group them together. And of course, we have our old copy and paste, which we have reference and duplicate, and I'll explain what those are later. Copy filters, which is what we were talking about, what our filters are. So we're going to be getting into filters in a moment. Set color. This will let us change the color in the box so that we can see it a little bit easier. We can rename it, we can remove it, we can change the order of it, we can transform it, which means that we can rotate it if we want to, we can flip it, we can stretch it to the screen. I do recommend that when you add a video source, if you're going to add an existing video, it's very convenient to use stretch to screen or center to screen, or one of these, fit to screen, because a lot of the video sources that you're going to be getting for these things, you know, sometimes it might be a different size than another. And if you have more than one video thing in a playlist, you might want each thing to be fit to screen automatically, especially if they're different sizes. So going down, let's see, hide and mixer, deinterlacing, resize output, scale filtering. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you're probably not going to use, and we're just going to kind of glide over that. And there's more. I mean, you can always look this up online. Full screen projector, windowed projector, and we're going to talk about what those projectors are in a little bit, because that's how I run this show, basically. But then here's what we're looking for, filters, right down here. So let's click on filters. And inside of filters, you'll notice that we have a preview again on the right-hand side of what the video looks like. And you'll notice the difference between the two sides. You'll notice that the left-hand side of the screen, it's showing our preview, which only Old Hollywood is selected. And then the right-hand side is Old Hollywood, along with a bunch of other things that are layered. Now, the way that layering works is the same if you're familiar with any Adobe products or any kind of graphic design stuff. Whatever's on top is the thing that will be covering whatever is underneath. So, for example, right now, Old Hollywood is on top of DMT, which is another video. It's on top of the logo. It's on top of our Media Source 5. It's on top of space. It's on top of all those things. So how is it on top of everything, and yet you can still see what's going on? Well, I created a chroma key for it. So you'll notice that we have audio filters and we have effect filters. Under effect filters, it's basically, it should say video filters, because that's what effect filters are in this instance. Audio/video filters, you can see, mainly relate to your audio and not your video. Most of this stuff is related to your audio, so I don't know what their idea was for naming it that way, but The top one is generally for audio. The lower one, effect filters, is for your video. So on the video side, I've added a chroma key and I added a sharpen. And you'll notice what happens when I click those individual items is they pop up with some controls that we're able to manipulate. And on the left-hand side, I have some little eyeballs again, and you've seen those before. If I click those off, I can turn the filter itself off. And so the filter won't be active. So if you'll notice, chroma key, if you are familiar, chroma key allows us to choose one color on a video, or a picture even, and lets us choose that one color and have that removed from the video itself. And the color that's removed will then be transparent. So you'll be able to see anything that has been put below it. So you'll notice that here it's asking me for what kind of color key to add, the similarity, the smoothness, color spill reduction, all kinds of different little tweaks that you can do to your chroma key. We use this a lot as well for people that call in with green screens and want to have the backgrounds cut out. This is a great way to do that. For this, I'm using it more of just as a fun effect. Sharpen as well is giving me an effect on our old Hollywood video. That's allowing me to make it look a little bit funky. So I kind of made it look a little bit weird on purpose. The quality wasn't that great, and I just wanted it as part of this layer, so that's what I did with it. So you'll notice that if I turn off the chroma key, what happens on the right-hand side? Well, that chroma key gets turned off. That means that that video is then taking up, is the only thing that you can see on the screen. So let's turn chroma key back on, and we notice that it cuts out most of that area and now is only showing the lighter colors that are not chroma keyed out on top of that in that order. So that's pretty much the same with all of these. Let's go with DMT. I'm going to double click it. That's our properties, right? And then if I right click it, we get our filters. I'm going to hit filters. And you notice I added a chroma key to this as well. So you can see what is cut out as far as that goes. That's how everything is composited together. I just chose all of these videos, chose different colors to cut out of them, layered them together to kind of create a nice psychedelic and weird looking thing. So that's where we have our old Hollywood video, our DMT video, which is said it was best of DMT visuals or something it's called. Our logo, I'll turn that back on, which is under the DMT and under the old Hollywood. We have another thing, a graphic that was starting at, and I haven't used that in a while, so I've had that turned off. But you can see where it says live stream starts at 6 p.m. there. And now we still have Space and Media Source 5, which are still going, and you can see when I click them that the bar up above it is still moving, so it's still going and playing, and we see how much time is left over on the far right-hand side. We can see that this video, Space, is a 45-minute, has 45 minutes left, so 14 minutes has played so far. So this video is currently in the process of playing, and that's where it is in the timeline. And you'll notice that the left-hand side looks different than the right-hand side. That's because Space and Media Source 5 are currently off, but they're currently on the right-hand side. So you notice it's a little bit different. See that red thing right there? You know what? Let's turn off all of the things that are currently on here. And let's go down to the bottom, turn on Media Source 5. Let's turn on Space and see what we get. So you'll see what elements we're getting from both of those. I'm going to turn off Media Source 5 as well, so you can see that's what the Space one looks like on its own. You can see that that's coming through in the background, and that's what is showing. So if I wanted to take off everything else that's currently playing, I could just hit transition, and you'll notice everything is still currently playing that has an eyeball on it. The music has also stopped because that was also unselected. But now I'm going to go ahead and turn everything back on except for starts at and hit transition. Our music then starts again. Everything that's selected on that scene is now on. Everything is playing and everything is layered one item on top of each other. So that's kind of the basic way that the sources work. And I'm going to show you some different examples of how I've utilized that in the creation of a few different things that I've done for OBS. So you can see that everything that's in a layer has an icon on the left-hand side to help you remember what type of thing that is. And remember that each source also has properties. Not only properties, but it also has filters. And those are the two main different things that you can change for each item that you add in as a source. Now, earlier we were talking about other sources that we can add in, and we're going to definitely get to some examples, but let's just kind of go down the line as far as what I've done to create this, this setup. So right now we're looking at the pre-show. So I created the pre-show for myself to give me time for before the show starts. That allows people to just kind of hang out and watch this on their screens as they're just chilling until the show itself starts. Then when the show starts, I have another scene that I've created called Welcome. Now this thing is a video that I created in After Effects. So this video is something I created from scratch in After Effects, and you'll notice that right here on the right-hand side, we only have media source and audio output capture. Audio output capture is actually something you can select, so you can select what sound on your computer you want it to be. However, we don't need that for the audio, I believe, because the media source takes care of that. So I think that audio output capture was something I just had in there digitally, if that makes sense. I just had it. I don't need it anymore, but it's there. But anyways, here's the file, media source. So this media source, I didn't name it because, well, it's inside of that scene that says welcome. So to me, that was something that I was like, well, I don't need to name it. And the thing is already called welcome, right? So it's clear what's inside of it. However, naming your stuff, always helpful, right? But you'll notice welcome is highlighted. Left-hand side, it says preview. Right-hand side, it says program. And we do not have currently anything playing on the left, even though we have a video. This is a video, it works. So why is it not playing? Well, that's because we have to transition the preview over to the live side for the program. So I'm gonna hit transition now, and you can see how this is all gonna end on the right-hand side. All of that stuff that's in the pre-show is gonna end, and then the video that's queued up and ready to play is then going to play live on the program side. In addition to that, the left-hand side, the scenes, this will select a different scene on the list for to get ready for if it thinks we're going to jump to another scene. So I'm going to go ahead and hit transition. And so now notice on the left-hand side.
Hello, and welcome to the Strange Cinema Saturday experience, where the space is safe, but the movies are anything but. Please, use your cell phone and talk during the film.
Media source there. Mute it. That. Monitor off, and I can hit close. Yeah, we'll talk about the audio. That's a whole other thing that we got to dig into, but we'll get to that. So on the right-hand side, there's that video playing that I created in After Effects. So none of that stuff is in OBS individually, although I could possibly create all of these individual items inside of OBS and layer them and play them just like this. You know, I could absolutely do the same thing. However, it's a lot less taxing on your system if you pre-render video and make it work how you want it, or anything that you want to add into OBS. So that's how that worked. When I hit transition, the scene went back to pre-show. And then the scene welcome that we're currently watching right now, that's on the right-hand side, and that's currently playing. I'm getting a little bit of choppiness on my computer, but I think it's probably because I'm screen recording and sharing on Discord, and I'm doing a lot. So that's probably why, although my CPU is not showing any kind of hit. So this is the advertisement or the welcome video that I created for the Strange Cinema Saturday. That's going to play out. Now, when that's done, what am I going to want to go to? Well, after the video plays, after the welcome video plays, my plan is to go into the short films that start at 7 p.m. So notice on the left-hand side, I have the item that says shorts as far as the scenes go. That's selected. And inside of shorts, you'll notice that there are several items that have little eyeballs on them that's showing us what is currently being broadcast. God mic is referring to the microphone that I'm currently using. If I wanted to put my voice into the movie or the stream or the show, I would use that. But right now, currently, the only two things that are really there is the shorts from directory, which is the item right here, which is the videos that are playing from a directory. And I have two different items on there. I have an episode of a show called Cop Rock that we watch, which is pretty hilarious. Highly recommend it. And another thing, it's a directory of animation that I've collected. So these items, they will play when I hit transition, right? That's what we've talked about previously. So that's the exact same thing that's going to happen. This item right here, these are videos that are ready to play. As soon as I hit transition, they're going to play on the right-hand side. In addition to that, you'll notice that the only other thing with an eyeball right now is this one. It says SCSTL. And you'll notice when I click it that instead of a video thing up here, it then instead gives us a directory where it has the list of exactly where it's getting that picture from. I even got a browse button all the way over to the right. And I can even hit filters or properties right there. And that's just giving us an extra way to do, which is pretty much the same thing as double clicking it. Now, you'll notice that that item up there, the logo for the show, it says Strange Cinema Saturday. It says the word shorts underneath it. That is just one picture. I have just one image. That's a ping. So the pings are files that have the ability to have a transparent background so that you're able to overlay those on top of other things. So this is an example of something that's a very simple overlay that I did with this. So there's only two items. There's the videos, and then there's the logo. Let's see what happens when I hit transition.
Previously
So
on Cop
there
Rock.
we go, and it is then showing the video that was queued up, and it's also showing the logo for the show over the
200,
top,
right?
and you can see it's very seamless. This is like what a lot of television stations would do, kind of in a similar way, put a logo for their thing up there
Plug ugly,
and have the video
too ugly to
playing
live,
underneath.
ugly enough to scare
So that's what
horses and
plays,
children,
the
and
shorts
ugly
play.
enough
And
to
notice
stop
if I
trains.
clicked on shorts in the
Dr.
scenes
Watun.
over here on the left, it then shows it in the preview. It's showing what's currently running. If I
I
wanted to
make
turn
you
off the logo,
beautiful.
it'd be pretty
There are
easy
a
to
lot of
just hit
people
that
who
little
feel the shooting
eyeball.
wasn't
That
justified,
turns off the
Chief.
logo.
What?
I'm going to hit transition.
Me, for
Notice it takes it away.
that?
And also
Statement
notice that
saying
it's
that I
fading
witnessed
out
the
as
murder
well.
of Tyrone
So if I hit
Woods.
transition
You're
again,
under
it comes
arrest.
back up, and it's there as
This
the
man
video
is not just a
continues to
flight
play.
risk, Your Honor. He is
If
a
I wanted,
violent
for some reason,
individual
to
who
pause the
represents a risk
video,
to
I
each
could
and every
click
one
on
of
the
us.
source
$500
over
million
here,
is not
and
unreasonable.
I didn't hit
Come on,
pause
Karen,
yet.
this
That was
man's
just a
never
little
been
choppiness.
arrested. He has
I could
roots in
click
the
on where it says
community, Your
shorts
Honor.
right
The
here in the
attorney's
sources
office
item,
believes, Your
and then I
Honor,
could hit
that
the pause
Vincent-
button, and that would pause both the preview and the program. You can't pause one individually. You have to pause both. Both count as the same item. So if I hit play
the
on that, it is
jurisdiction
now
if
playing
faced with the
again.
possibility of imprisonment.
I
But
have to tell you,
if this was a
I'm
live
inclined to
stream,
believe the
this would
same
have
thing.
paused the video
With
on
all
the
due
live stream.
respect, Your Honor, I think we should consider what keeping
Let's
a cop in
say I
jail
wanted to make
means.
that
Prisoners
logo
look
a
at him
different
and say it's
size.
payback time.
So right now,
He's
the
isolated,
logo, I
he's
have it selected,
despised. I
right?
mean,
Or
why
no,
in
I don't have
God's
it
name
selected. Right
are we
there is the
forcing this
logo.
man to
It
go
has a little
through that?
picture
He's
there.
been charged with
And
murder.
it has a little
Counselor.
lock, which is unlocked, and we have a little eyeball,
defense
because
asks
there's
the
our
bill be
logo. We
set
can
in
turn
the
it
amount
on
of
and off if we want to.
$50,000, Your
But
Honor.
let's say
No
we just
can
wanted
do,
to make it
Mr.
a
White.
larger size.
$500,000 it is.
You'll notice
Next
that on the
case.
left-hand side, I created this logo to be 1080 by 1920. So I made it a HD size with the rest of this being blank to make it really easy to pop that into my stream. But if I wanted to change the size for some reason, I could do that, and I could move it wherever I wanted to on the
Patricia's
screen,
filing for an
and
appeal
that
as we
would
speak.
be
That's one thing.
where
Next,
it winds up.
I'm
But
gonna get a
notice on the
court order to
right-hand
keep
side,
you
it is not,
segregated
the
from the
size
general
has not been
population.
changed.
Yeah, well,
And
don't
if I
hold
hit
your breath.
transition,
I
then
mean,
it
nobody's looking to
changes
cut
the
me any
size of it,
slack right
puts
now,
it
you know?
there.
Of
Warning
course,
to
you can
everybody
leave
using
work.
this
You can
program,
collect the money yourself.
you know, one of my best friends in everything that
long
I
time
do
ago,
on
Vincent,
computers as
there's
far as
some things you
technology and
do for your
graphics
clients
goes is
and some
Control
things you
Z,
don't do.
which is your undo
Posting
button, right?
bail,
Warning for this
one of the things
program,
I don't do.
it rarely
Keep your chin up.
works. So undo does not really do much in here. You kind of have to make sure that if you're changing things, that you're gonna be careful enough that you're not gonna have to use undo.
It don't make no
There we go. And if I want to change it back to this, make that on the stream, there we go. There it is. So that's how that works. So now I set up another thing that says trailers here, and this is a little slightly different thing with a little fun trick that I have. I want to show you what this trick is. So I'm going to hit this transition. You'll notice that it stopped the video on
Now,
the
ladies
left,
and gentlemen.
and
Okay then, I'll tell you how I met Elvis.
Okay, so you'll notice that on the left, when I changed it, it stopped the video. Now, why did it do that? If we double click on the, if we click on the shorts scene and then go inside of shorts and find our videos for our from directory, we can hit this and we can see what's happening here. And notice that visibility behavior, this window right here, it says stop when not visible, restart when visible. So other choices include pause when not visible, unpause when visible, or always play even when not visible. So those are 3 different choices you can have for any videos that you add in. So that can be helpful if you wanted something that's just more of a fun graphic that loops and just keeps going. You might not want that to pause. You might want to just keep that running so that you can jump back to it whenever you want to use it. Cool. So this item right here, trailers, that's what we're currently looking at. This is a little bit different than the shorts one, and it has a little bit of a fun trick that I think looks really nice. Take a look at the top left corner. See the logo there? Strange Cinema Saturday trailers. Now notice if we go into image slideshow that I created, that's where that logo lives. Now last time I did it as just one picture, but in this instance, I created a slideshow of 2 different pictures. They are slightly different. One says time to vote and one says trailers. And that the only difference between the 2 is where it's that white text there. It says time to vote or trailers. And you might have noticed that just change right there. So I have it so that when it transitions from one picture to the other, it will do a fade transition, because you can select that if you're choosing to create a slideshow of images. And then you can have it have a specified time between slides and a transition speed, which allows you to make it something that morphs into different things. So if you wanted to have text on your screen, you could create images for that, and then you could have the text fade into the next item, whatever next item that is, or whatever you want to do with pictures. And of course, there's other options you can set here, such as loop or hide when slideshow is done, randomize playback, bounding size aspect ratio. I have that set to automatic so that that way it'd fill the screen properly, and set that logo in the same spot. And I believe that's part of why I created those in a 1920 by 1080 size, so that it would fit specifically exactly on the screen where I wanted it to go. So I just created that graphic to do just that. So right now the video is not playing, and if I did want it to play, I could click on trailers right there and then hit the plus key again, and then there it goes.
We want to return the package ASAP.
Just so you guys are aware, the way that this show works, it's, the movies are all terrible. Generally, well, actually, the movies are just strange, is what the thing is supposed to be. And people submit trailers. We show those before the movie, and then I have them vote on the ones that they want in the Discord chat. So that's the way that works. So the trailers, you'll notice it says trailers from directory. Let's double click on that real quick. And I even have 2 added in there, which was dumb. I'm going to remove that. And you'll notice that they both have, or this has a directory selected. So that's a really handy thing to be able to do with this program, is you are able to create an item here. This item right here, this I believe this is the VLC player, or maybe not. This might just be the media player. But what it's able to do is just you can point it to a directory on your computer, And then in that directory, you can put whatever videos you want, and it will automatically play all of the videos in that directory. That can be very handy for a lot of different reasons for doing this. So the image slideshow and the trailers from directory, that's the two things that we talked about so far. And you notice I have some other junk in here because sometimes I like to mess around with a show and just put different things in there and mess around. Like there was somebody's birthday or whatever, and I put their name up there. But yeah, there's lots of things you can do. So you can overlay whatever you want, text or pictures or videos or whatever, and whatever's on top is the thing that's going to be on top of the stack of items. Let's look at some of these other items on the left here, and this is all pretty simple stuff now that we've kind of talked about some of the basics. Feature presentation is the film itself that we show, and you'll notice that all those the eyeballs are turned off. The only one on is the actual film itself. We have an intermission that we do, which is just like a fake little drive-in type of thing with a video playing in it.
Show starts in 10 minutes.
This is again just a rendered thing, a full video file. But again, I could have done it where I had the video that's playing in the drive-in screen. I could have had that play inside of a picture that was showing the drive-in. So I could have made it my own thing inside of OBS instead of taking it into After Effects and modifying it that way. But again, it's more resources on the computer if you do it that way. So then I have a post-show thing, transition. Oh, I think I even turned off all those items. Yeah, so that's all the things turned on, and then I hit transition, and that's what I have there. And you'll notice that game capture isn't being utilized, but image, you can see that's that donkey right there. I can move him around if I want to. He's a separate picture file. The text up here, there's two different things of text I can move around. Thanks for coming. Double click on this guy. You can see that you can choose your font, you can choose your color, you can choose a background if you want to, opacity, alignment, all the things you're familiar with modifying text. It has all those abilities. It does take a little playing with to get it to work right, or to make it look how you like. I would recommend maybe turning on the anti-aliasing if it looks too jagged or something. You can turn on an outline if you wanted to, so that you can make it a different color outline. If you wanted it to look a certain way, notice that there's a little red outline on there. I can turn up the thickness of that to make it whatever, so we can make that look a certain way. Outline opacity. And yeah, notice that the video is running underneath that, right? So that's running underneath that text. And we can just move this stuff around wherever we want it to go. Notice that picture, that's something that I'm still not really 100% happy with, is notice that picture has kind of a little bit of a jagged outline. It's kind of like that needs a little anti-aliasing or something in order to get rid of that choppy outline on there. But it hasn't bothered me enough to actually change it yet, so it's still just kind of the way it is. And yeah, so this is pretty much the entire setup that I do for Strange Cinema Saturday. And that show is not run with any webcams or anything in it. It's just video files. But hopefully that overview gives you an idea of some of the things that are possible by layering videos, text, and images together. All sorts of different combinations you can do with that. You can create images that have certain areas that are transparent if you wanted to create a frame for things. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do. So you could have, for example, like a face replacement thing where you have like a picture of a person and you can cut out their face and then have a live webcam in the middle, where a person is actually doing the face of the person. So you could do that live. That's the kind of thing you can, that's an example of another kind of thing you can do. So far, that's all I've shown you. It's kind of a basic overview. We're gonna move on, but just want to kind of summarize, and then kind of come to you guys and see if there's anything question-wise that you have. There's a lot more to talk about with this, a lot more different capabilities that this has, but I want to make sure that as we're going so far that we're all kind of all on the same page. So. We have gone over a basic overview of OBS. We talked about what the menu system, some of the items in the menu system are. We talked about the scenes, what those are for. We talked about the sources, and we talked about how those work. We talked about how sources nest inside of these scenes, and whatever scene we have selected has a different collection of sources. We talked about the ability of the different sources to be stacked on top of each other, and for the stacking to affect what is working on the screen. We talked about how the left-hand side of the screen is our preview, the right-hand side is our program. The preview is only for us here in the studio. The program is for the public at large. That's what people will see. So anything that's being recorded, anything that's being streamed, that's going to show up on the program side. That is kind of a basic summary of things that we've talked about without getting too specific into different items. Is there any questions or thoughts going so far? Feel free to unmute and chime in if you'd like to, or feel free to. So you don't really have a chat for this, do you?
Hey, Mike, can you hear me? This is Justin.
I sure can. Thank you, Justin. Yes.
Hey, Mike, I was just wondering, this is a really weird question, but is that drive-in picture from Honolulu? It looks like Diamond Head Drive-In.
You know what? I don't remember what that is. Where is the intermission?
And the reason I ask is because I went to that drive-in as a child, and I'm wondering if it's the same one.
Oh, wow.
If it's Diamond Head in Honolulu.
That's fun.
10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fun. That might be. I mean, there's some nice mountains in the background.
Yeah,
basically
I thought it
chose
might
because
be.
of the screen. That's what it was.
See, I think the mountains, if it was Diamond Head, would be Diamond Head Crater, I think, and there's like a lake, or it's like the end of the island on one side or something.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
But it may not be. It might be somewhere else that it looks sort of like that too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't remember where it was, unless the image itself says what the... Oops, wrong one. Unless the image itself says what the file name is. Oh, no, because I made it into a video. That's right. It's all just one MP4.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Just curious.
Any other thoughts or questions about anything that we've gone over so far? I don't want to leave anybody behind or go too fast to lose anybody. Cool. Okay. So let's dig into another scene collection that I have. This one is for what is called KQN News. Kumquat Corner. I work with Tom Steinman on this, a bunch of other talented and awesome people. And let's transition to it. So notice when I click on it, what happens? Well, we're taken to our preview and our program, and we have both on the screen right here. Notice on the left-hand side we have scenes. Which one is currently being shown? Well, we don't really know until we click on them and see which matches on the left and the right. So notice the left and right side, they both match. And we have a bunch of different things over in the right-hand side here under our sources. So I named these items on the left-hand side very specifically. I named ACAM full, ACAM and BCAM, ACAM and CCAM, BCAM, ACAM, and CCAM, and then Scene 2, which is just empty, I think, for me to work on. So this whole thing is a work in progress still. But you will notice a couple things that are kind of interesting. One thing is that the time is the actual time on here, right? Well, how did I get that to work out? Well, there's a little program. There's another program that you can get called Snaz. Snaz is this program right here. It's very small. It lives in your taskbar when you're not using it. But it will let you do some fun things, such as show the actual time on your streams, or the date, Or it'll let you do a custom countdown, which is really fun if you're counting down to a specific thing. Like a lot of people really like to do, and I think that's a good thing to do. If you're doing a stream, to go live before the actual stream starts and then have a countdown until you are live. That way you can go live exactly when the thing is supposed to go live. Yeah, it's a nice tool that gives you some stuff that makes it feel like I don't know. There's just a little bit more. I mean, if you have live information like a countdown or date or time, it kind of makes it feel a little bit more pressing. It makes it feel like it's like actually happening. So yeah, you can do a lot of things with this. I haven't really explored a ton of what you can do, but I mean, yeah, you can even have your RAM available inside, like show up on the screen. You could have, whatever your network speed is. There's so many different things you can have. So this program lets you broadcast any of that data into OBS. So it'll grab the text itself and put it into OBS. Let's look at where that is so that we can see how it works. We go to on-screen text. Notice I have a shitload of on-screen text in this one. And you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here on the bottom so that you guys can see the whole list a little bit easier. We're going to shrink those video files down, or those video previews down. So you'll notice on the left-hand side here, under sources, we have a whole bunch of different sources. This one is time zone. And then this one I named actual live time from SNAS. So I would not forget. Let's double click it. And notice that what is selected is a text file, because that's how SNAS works, is that it creates a text file, and that text file is updated every second. So it constantly updates the text file in here and in OBS. And that lets you change the font of your time. It lets you change the way it looks. You can put anti-aliasing on there. You can transform the text, change the color, all the normal things that you guys love to do with text. So that's how it works. It basically is just a file path that you copy and then paste right into OBS, because it has a spot for a text file to go. And once you put that in there and then hit OK, that'll put the live time on your screen. But you have to make sure that SNAS is running, because that functionality is currently not built into OBS yet. I believe that there's some ways to hack it, but currently it is not an available feature built into OBS. So you'll notice that I have a bunch of other text items, and you'll notice, as we talked about before, there's a folder now. So that folder is containing all of the other text items on there. Here is something to be aware of for how this works, and this is something that I had to learn by trial and error. I'm going to drag this down so you can see the screens a little bit more. When you see this, okay, wait, let me collapse this folder. So it says on-screen text, right? Highlighted that. Now let's say I turn this eyeball off. Okay, all the on-screen text goes away because this is actually a picture, not on-screen text. And it is now gone from the left-hand side. If I hit transition, it then transitions to turn that text off on the right-hand side. Which one was I on? I was on this one. I was on A cam and B cam. You notice those match on the left and right. I'm going to turn on-screen text back on. And I'm going to hit transition. Now, the thing to be aware of is when you are turning stuff on and off. Oh, maybe I'm wrong, actually. Maybe it actually is working now. Interesting, because when you turn it on and off, when you turn the used to be, and this was very recent, this is actually something that must have been changed in the last week, because it used to be when you turned the folder off, it would turn all of the nested items off, and when you turned it on, it would turn every single item off, even the ones that you currently had off. So, like, yeah, I have a ticker in here as well, a live scrolling ticker, and that was off, and I just turned that on. And normally it used to be that if you turned the folder off and then turned it on, it would actually turn on everything that was currently off or on. So it's like it didn't make a distinction, but apparently they fixed that. So that's very nice. I'm glad to have that fixed. So That's our on-screen text. The ticker is not anything fancy. That is actually built into OBS. So if you double click the ticker, of course, we get our properties again, which we talked about, our properties. And in there, you got whatever you want it to be. You can have it be a text file, which is what I created for this. But you could even just type in some text into this and have it scroll across the screen. And again, you have all your controls for your favorite text manipulation stuff, including the background, which is like what tickers usually have, right? So that's how that works. So the text, I basically, let me turn off, I'm going to turn off the motion videos, so it's a little less confusing. And there's some other stuff, and I'm going to turn off as well. I'm going to transition. So this look that you're looking at right here, what I basically did was I screen capped, or I just grabbed a screen cap from a Google image search of CNN. And I took that into Adobe Illustrator, and I traced the colorful boxes from that screen cap, and kind of put some placeholder text into it. And then I saved that as a PNG, of course, because PNGs have the transparent background. And so once I save that as a PNG, then I just put that image file in here. And at that point, it still had the placeholder text on it. So once that picture was in here, I then went into OBS, put this picture just like it is, except there was placeholder text here, and then I mimicked the text that I had in OBS. Now, why did I do that? It's because it's much easier to change the text live when it's all in OBS rather than having to create a new picture for it. So this is something that you can do, and what they call this is a lower third, if you're not aware. This lower third is created with some text that is just on top of the picture. So that's the best way to do it, is you create some text, you create a picture for your background or for your lower third or whatever you want, create some text to go on top of that, and then you can click on whatever you want. Like if we want to change the name of the host, is this the right one? Let's turn it off and on. Yeah, so that's kind of like the flavor text under, or the host name text. But if I want to change it, all I have to do is I can right click it to go into the properties, and inside the properties there's the current text. I can change this to your name here. And then it changes it on the screen. I hit OK. And notice it changed it on both sides as I typed that. Now, it's going to do that. Anytime you change one of the sources that's active on the right-hand side, it's going to immediately change it on the right. If I wanted to instead have it so that my change didn't show up on the right-hand side until I hit transition, what I'd want to do is create a separate text layer and have that visible on the left and have the thing that I wanted removed on the right. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and hit plus to add a new layer. And I'm going to choose text from this. And there we go. Notice underneath we have all of our existing text that I've created. All of that stuff is there. So that's something that if you wanted to make multiple scenes that utilize the same text or same information and changes when you change that text or information in your other scenes, then that's what you would do, is you can select from something that's already existing down there. So that's one way to do it. So I'm creating new text. Let's call this fun text. And it's in Arial. I think the font I'm using for this is Babus New. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit OK. Notice the size is already 256. That's a little excessive. I'm going to hit 72. Let's just go with an italic since it's fun. So I got a 72 font. There we go. And now notice on the left-hand side of the screen, I don't know if you can see that, there's a little red bar up there. Does everybody see that? So that little red bar, that is where the text is going by default. So as soon as we start typing, that's where the text is going to show up. This is some fun text to add into your OBS setup. And I hit enter and I didn't have to. So let's just do that. And if you'll notice on the screen, that P looks like it's cut off, right? Let's add a couple spaces there to make sure that nothing is getting cut off. Like the text thing in here can be a little bit weird, but it works if you mess with it. Let's hit OK. Now we notice the red bounding box around the text. It's there. Notice we can only see it on the left-hand side. We cannot see it on the right. I'm going to hit transition. And there we go. That's where the text is. If I move this and I put it down here, say, notice it doesn't move over here until I hit transition. So transition is the thing that's telling us that, yeah, this is how it works. This is where it goes. And once it's in the right spot, then you hit transition and it'll move it on the right-hand side. So notice that most things do not change. But if I were to change the content of this item, this is some fun text to add into OBS. Let's find that down here again. Fun text. Where did I put it? Oh, it's on top of all the other text. So let's double click that. Now I'm in there. And then if I put, change this to, this is some fun texts. Man. Space. And notice it changed on the right and the left at the same time, right? That's what we were just talking about, is that if you're changing the content of the text, that is going to change it on both the right and the left at the same time. Same for anything else. If you change the content of a picture, a video, or whatever, it will change it on the left and right at the same time. However, it's when you move the position of it or add or remove elements from your scene that you're going to have to hit transition to get those to take effect on the right-hand side. But just know that if you have something existing on the right-hand side, if you have something existing on the left that's visible and you want to change that item, it's going to do a live change on both sides at the same time. So your live stream will show you typing the new text. And maybe that's something that you want. Maybe you do want your live stream to show the text as you're typing it, but that's something to be aware of. Now notice also, just as something else to kind of review, that when I click on Fun Text Man, it gives us a blue box at first. If I click on it again, it gives us a red box. The red bounding box has these little handles, which is the same as any other program that lets you change the size of text automatically. I'm not holding down Shift to make sure it's going at keeping the same aspect ratio. But I'm using these bounding boxes to go like this. If I wanted to change the aspect ratio, I can hold down Shift, and that will let me change the aspect ratio of the text. So I can stretch it if I want to, but then again, if I change it without holding down Shift, it will go back to the original aspect ratio of that. Which is very similar to stuff like Photoshop, Illustrator, any of those programs that let you create things. It's pretty much the same way. I can also move this with arrow keys. I can squish it. I can move it. I can do whatever I want. Of course, I can add filters to it if I want to as well. Let's see what those are. Let's click filters. We only have effect filters because it's not a video, so that means that there's no audio to be had add effects to. Let's hit plus and see what we can do. How about let's see what would be something interesting. How about there's not really anything you really want to do with text on this, honestly. But how about color correction? Is that going to be fun? Hue shift, yeah, because that's where hue shift is. So I can do different colors. I can change the colors of things that I throw in there. So it changed it blue just because I hit changed it to blue. But then there's hue shift and opacity that I can change. Hue shift doesn't seem to want to be doing anything right now, but it's easy to change the color. You can change the opacity. You can change the brightness, the contrast. You know, whatever you want to change to make it look the way that you like. So that's how that works. So that's some stuff that you can do with text. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to go ahead and hit remove on there, and let's say yes. Now you'll notice that I have a couple motion background videos playing. They were playing when we first opened this up, and I'm going to go ahead and reopen. I'm going to turn this back on so you can see it. I named it motion background, ACAM only motion background, ACAM only 2 cam size. That's a bunch of gibberish for myself to remember certain things, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. You notice it's just a little square on the left-hand side, right? And notice how that's on. And currently on the right-hand side, it just says, this is some fun text, man. Even though I erased that text from the sources list. So that's even 100% gone from the sources list, but it's still showing up on the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and hit transition. And you notice that that text is now gone. And we just have this little motion video going here. Now, the reason that I had this motion video going is because I have a live video feed set to be the same size as this, and it's set to have a chroma key, which means the green screen is cut out. So this person that I put into here with a camera, they're completely cut out on the screen so that it looks like the background is just the Earth spinning around. So that's what that motion video is for. Let me close that down and go with another motion video that I have, which this is the background for, I think that's the background for the entire show. Now notice when I turn it on, we don't see it on the left. Now why is that? Well, that's because it's a video and it won't be live until I hit transition. So as soon as I hit transition, it's now playing the video. And that's partially because if I go into the properties again, you'll notice that it says stop when not visible, restart when visible. Remember how we talked about those guys earlier? So that's telling us what's going to happen when we hit the transition from left to right. So when it's on the left, it will be a stopped video. When I hit transition, it'll start playing it, and then it'll show it on both screens. If instead I wanted this video to keep playing the entire time, even when it's not visible, I'd want to make sure that I have that selected. Now, what would be the reason for that? Well, let's say it's a motion video that has some junk at the beginning of it, and you want to get that out of the way. Maybe you want to have that playing for some reason so you can have it getting into the video, and you're going to come back to the same spot later, maybe by transitioning back to it. So that could be a reason that you might want to have the video playing the whole time. For example, on the movie nights, we have our feature presentation playing, we have our movie playing, and then when it gets to the point where there's the intermission, I'll click over to the intermission scene. And when I do that, as soon as I do that, the feature presentation pauses. So it will pause where it is. And then when I transition back to the feature presentation, it'll continue playing it. So we have the ability to have the videos that we have included in our OBS. We have the ability to pause them. We have the ability to pause them when they're not being viewed. We have the ability to have them be playing the entire time, whether they're viewed or not. And we have the ability to have them stop and then play only when they're visible. So those are the three things that we have with that. So you can see how that could be a useful thing to change on whatever setup you got. Now, I feel like I've gone over a pretty good amount of this stuff. Oh, well, there's a couple. Well, let me see here. This part right here, this one is just, you'll notice a little paintbrush there, and it has, it says background still, white large. All this is just a color. So this is just a solid color. That's all it is. And it's a little bit off white. And I put that there to make it look like, combined with the other video, like it's a little background there. So that if I were to have somebody in their green screen here, it looks like, okay, there's a little background around it, and then there's a motion background of where they're being recorded from or whatever. And these guys are just short videos on loops, by the way. Like, there's not long videos. And again, just to reiterate, the videos are pausing, and I think that's due to the screen recording. So the videos seem to be having like a little bit of an issue in the screen because of the screen recorder, but that's not a big deal. Usually does not have anything like that as a problem. Now, let's turn off the white thing, and let's turn off the other box, and we're back to this. And so you guys understand now the elements that we've used to create this look. And this is a very simple look. This is not anything too complicated right now. Let's just talk through what the layers are, and I'm going to talk from the bottom up. Right here, that's our background with the globe spinning, and it's kind of made to look like a news studio apparently. So that's what that is. If I turn that off, that removes just that, right? Above that, this is off, 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 until we get to on-screen graphics. And I only have one file in there, just one thing, which I named on-screen graphics CNN ripoff, so I can remember. And if I turn that off, that turns off just the graphics that I've created, just the boxes. So that's just the boxes, and I just created that in Illustrator. Again, you could create the boxes themselves in OBS if you really wanted to. But again, that's going to create a higher workload for your machine. So I always try to make it streamlined to make it as easy as possible for the machine to handle stuff so we don't run into any unforeseen problems. So I think originally I had it as different boxes in OBS, but I kept getting frustrated because I would like accidentally move one of them, and then of course the undo thing doesn't work very well ever. So then I mess something up, and then I'm like, great, now I have to go back and do all this stuff. So I realized for my own process that I'd want to use Illustrator to just create some simple colored boxes, just a regular picture, put that in there, and then it looked better that way. Now for the on-screen text, however, I did want to make that be something that I could change whatever on-screen text that I wanted to dynamically. So that's why I created all of the different on-screen text items for this and sized them appropriately for the box and put them in a spot that made sense for me. And again, the KQN News, this is a logo, so I created that separately rather than using text to create that logo. So that's something that I did just because it was easier that way, and it makes it stay kind of that way. So that's how I created this stuff. We had basically just the three different layers. There's the video in the background, there's the color blocks, and then there's the text. Text is including the scroll bar because that's actually just something you can make right in here in OBS is just that scroll bar. So you can notice right there the live scrolling ticker. So that's part of it right there. You can use whatever source you want to create that that on-screen scroll bar. You can copy paste news if you wanted to. You can do whatever. And as you paste things into that document that it's grabbing the scroll bar text from, it'll change and be whatever you want it to be. So now, probably one of the most important things about OBS is how do we get other people into this thing, right? So that's one of the big things that we want to be able to do, and a lot of other services have this, is, you know, you have multiple cameras. Of course, it's pretty easy for me. I'm just going to go to the workshop scene collection, which means that it's going to take out all of the scenes and sources that we have currently. Not responding. Whoa, did it crash? It crashed. Yeehaw. Usually this program's pretty darn stable. Oh, and another thing you should know is that, you know, OBS also has like kind of another program that is very similar to it. And it's called Streamlabs. I have both. Streamlabs is kind of it's made with some other bells and whistles. But in having those other bells and whistles, it's a little bit more top heavy than OBS. OBS tends to run very smoothly for the most part. I usually don't have problems with it at all, especially if you're really, you know, concentrating on streamlining your experience and making sure that things are like, you know, made to run well, you know, with pictures and text, everything done simply, you know. But Streamlabs has like a couple other little fun things kind of built into it. It's very similar to OBS, but it's built from the bones of OBS. I believe Streamlabs was just acquired by Logitech, I think yesterday. So that might be changing. I don't know what the hell Logitech's going to be doing with that, or why they would buy Streamlabs and not try to purchase or create their own OBS type of software. Another competing software with OBS is something called XSplit. I haven't really used that very much, but that also is a paid program. And I find OBS to kind of just do everything that I want. So I don't really have any interest in checking out XSplit. Streamlabs I do use for one of my shows only because I built it in Streamlabs originally, and I have been too lazy to import it over to the regular OBS. So, how do we get multiple people into OBS? Well, there is a website, and that is this is something you're going to want to write down, called OBS Ninja. OBS Ninja is not actually associated with the program OBS. OBS is, pardon me. OBS is, pardon me. OBS is something that is open source. It's free. It's built on software that is freely available to everybody. So this guy that was using OBS for a while, and he's a programmer, he decided, I'm going to make a peer-to-peer video sharing thing. When I first started using this stuff, I had read a bunch about what people are using to get other people into these, like OBS, for example. I started out by using Skype. Skype was awful. I didn't like the way that it worked. I don't like Skype in general. I mean, who really likes Skype, right? I mean, it was not friendly to OBS, and it took a lot of extra steps to make that work properly. So after I got frustrated enough with Skype, I started looking into the other video applications out there. Like, I'm very familiar with Zoom. I'm very familiar with Google Meet, Discord, all of these other video sharing things. But the way that OBS works as far as getting stuff in there is like this, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to hit plus on sources, and we're going to do window capture. I'm not going to name it, and I'm just going to okay. And notice it automatically detected this window because it was the one right below OBS. And you'll notice that this window is just my web browser, right? And I can shrink this down. I can change the size. I can do whatever I want with it. However, I can change this window to be whatever. Let's see what happens if I choose Discord. So this is nice. I got a full view of Discord on the screen, right? This is what I'm seeing on my Discord window. However, if I wanted to get just the video participants in there, it's going to take another step. I would have to pop out the video participants that want to be included. And then I also have to worry about other things I can't control, like the names of the people popping up and the size of their windows and the shapes of their windows. I don't want a box to light up green when a specific person is talking. I don't want everybody to be a rectangle. I don't want people that don't have their cameras on showing up, right? These are a lot of different issues that a normal person would have. I am very stuck to the way that Discord is displaying other people's cameras. So I don't want to be tethered to that, right? So I want to figure out a different way to get the people that I want to work with and be on these live streams with me into this without having to screen cap a program that is clearly something else, right? Like if I put this up there, people would be like, oh, we just screen capped Discord and put that up there. I'm like, yeah, well, I did. Yeah, that's how it works. Exactly. If I screen capped Google Meet, it's kind of the same way. I mean, you can do that. It's fine. Fine to do that if you want to. However, it definitely is not going to give you the most flexibility. The best way is to use what is called OBS Ninja. Now, OBS Ninja was created by just an individual programmer who's doing it for free. He volunteered to do it. He's kind of an amazing guy. This guy also has his own Discord. He has his own website here, as you can see. He's incredibly responsive to any issues you might have with using this camera share. I have messaged him with with problems that I had and gotten a response in under 20 minutes. And I pay attention to the Discord too, because there's good discussions on there about other things that you're able to do with this. And it's kind of amazing. The guy, I don't know how he has the time to do all of that, but he does. And he's very responsive, very friendly, and incredibly good at what he's doing. So here's the other thing about how this works. And this is kind of an important element. So OBS Ninja works a little bit differently than something like Skype or Discord or one of these other things. Most of these programs for video chatting and video sharing, the way they work is your video is sent out to a server, and your video goes on that server. And then the people that want to view that you're in the chat with, like on Discord right now, they would be, their video would be sent from the server to the individual wanting to watch it. So that's how it's working right now. You're seeing me talking, you're hearing me talking. That's all going from my camera and my microphone to a server on the internet, and then on that server, it's then coming to your Discord. So that's how that works. And Discord has different servers for different areas in the country and so on and so forth, so that it can kind of manage the traffic and do all the stuff this way. OBS Ninja actually does it a different way. OBS Ninja actually does peer-to-peer forwarding. So this is really cool about OBS Ninja, is that it actually is sending the video directly to that participant. So for example, if I was running a show and I wanted all of you in it, I could send each of you a link. Each of you would have your own camera, and then whatever I'm seeing on my screen would be very like near live. And when I say that, I mean that's huge, because that's kind of what the kinds of systems that news stations have. They will have stuff that's dedicated to broadcasting video from point A to point B over the internet without having any kind of lag or latency in there, well, as much as they can control. I mean, you're still going to get latency, but as it says on the site, ultra low latency. I think, what is it called? RTC or something is the name of the backbone that this thing is built on. I'm not sure exactly.
WebRTC, Mike.
WebRTC. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
WebRTC.
It's
So that's what
the browsers have only recently supported. It's called WebRTC.
Right, and that's why it's kind of new, is because the browsers have only recently supported it. Thanks, Justin. Exactly. I knew you'd know the answer to that. But yeah, that's why this thing is kind of a big deal now. Now, Chrome, Google Chrome, which is what I use for my browsers mainly. I also use Firefox. I use Edge. I use them all for different purposes. But Chrome is still in the process of being updated to use this thing perfectly. It's gotten since I've been using it, which I've been using like since it was brand new, like about a year ago. This thing has gotten way better over the time that he's been working on it, and it's kind of very impressive how much better this thing has gotten just in the time that I've been paying attention to it. Chrome still can present some issues with some streams, and I'm going to talk to you about how to make sure that that's not an issue for your streams, because there's a very simple workaround for it. So in this website, you'll see that there are several choices, very clear, very large buttons that we can click. One of the very most important ones, I would say, is run a speed test. This one, if you click it, it'll give you the ability to start a speed test on your webcam. And I'm just going to choose my webcam software, which is NVIDIA Broadcast. And I'm going to hit... I don't know if this is I don't know if it has too much going on to do this. But from any source that you share on here, you can choose either max resolution, balanced, or smooth and cool. Smooth and cool is like very low resolution, but it's concentrated on frame rate and making sure it's working really well. Balanced is making kind of a balanced choice between frame rate and resolution. Maxed res is usually going to give you 1920 by 1080. And once you start sharing your camera, it's going to get up to speed. It might take a minute for it to get there. And you can always test how well your camera is working on the internet by using this specific camera performance test here. So this is a great way to get anybody that you want in your feed to get to see if their internet connection is good, there's no problems with it, and what kind of connection that you're going to get. So back to this main page of OBS Ninja. I have not used the room feature, but you can create a room full of different cameras if you wanted to, much like in Discord or in Meet or Zoom or anything. Add your camera to OBS, which means that great, come on, Creative Cloud, repair. Okay. Add your camera to OBS. That would be if somebody sent you a link here and you wanted to have your camera stream into OBS. You could do this, and of course, my camera is already in use. It's use in a couple places, I think, is the problem right now. But I'm going to show you an example with my cell phone in a minute here. Okay, and if you go here, the one I use the most is create reusable invite. Now, this is very simple. It gives you the ability to name whatever your source is, and then you have some options that you can designate. So you can choose some things if you want to not allow your participant to have the option to modify some things. Like, for example, if you don't want them to choose the video resolution, you can choose whatever you want it to be. You can make it choose the default microphone. You can hide the screen share option, all these different things that you can add. You can add a password and and a guest. You can add them to a room as well. So once this invite is created, and I'm just going to leave everything unchecked, I'm going to leave this unnamed, and I'm going to hit generate. Now, this is where the magic happens. Guest invite link, OBS browser source link. So this first link here, where's my cell phone? Here it is. So let's see. So, okay, so here's my cell phone. Now, OBS Ninja is giving us a link that we need. Now, you'll notice that this is just a simple URL, right? https://obs.ninja. And then after obs.ninja, we have a slash. Then it says push on the top one. And on the bottom one, it says view. After that, it's the exact same link. So what's really nice about this is it makes it very simple for you to have these different links. Basically, it's just the 6 or 7 digit code that is created for each invite that you generate. So if I go here into my phone and type in the address that we got, and let's see. So on my phone, I have https://obs.ninja/push equals. Now I just need to type in, and it's case sensitive, of course. So make sure you're typing in this is what you need to type if you're doing that. And then that's BPK Sun 3. So then there we go. And this camera feed will stay anytime you, or for as long as you want. Like, this is your unique code. So you'll notice it says this invite link and OBS ingestion link are reusable. Only one person may use a specific invite at a time. So, for example, like for the news show, that's why I had A cam, B cam, C cam. And then if I have different people that I want to be in that video, I can send them the link for the A cam, the B cam, or the C cam, and they'll automatically pop up in the space that I designated on OBS, right? So now you can do this at home. You can take your phone and you can create your own reusable invite and then use it to see what it looks like when you share your camera. I'd show you my screen. However, I believe that it's probably going to be just whited out on there. You can't really tell much, right? Oh, wait, there it goes. It's adjusting. So you can kind of see what it looks like there. There's a button. There's a volume meter basically all I have to do is hit start, and then this thing will start sharing my camera. Let me hit start. And it basically makes the camera full screen. You can see some options, some little buttons at the bottom there that you got. And right now, this camera on my phone is sending out a stream to that link. So on the other side, that currently doesn't have anything viewing it. I'm now going to copy that OBS Ninja View link with the same code, and I'm going to go over to OBS. Now, I want to add this into OBS, right? I want to add this camera. So I'm going to hit plus. Let's hit plus. And from all of these items, the only one that will let you add an OBS Ninja link in is browser, because it counts it as a web page. Okay? So basically, you're viewing a web page that's showing you the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and hit browser. And notice again, we saw this earlier. It says create new or add existing. I'm going to hit create new, and I'm going to name this thing Mic Cam. And I'm going to hit OK. And now it's added a web page. Notice it says you just added a browser source. Browser sources let you display a web page from the internet or a local file and are commonly used for widgets and alerts. Set the URL to the page you'd like to display. So very simple. I can just click on URL right there, select the whole thing by triple clicking, and then I'm going to right click and paste. And there we go. We got that link in there, right? Now notice another important item right below that. We have width and we have height. Width and height are going to be dependent on your camera, your phone, your cell phone camera. Now that might be 1080 by 1920, but it might be vertical instead of horizontal. So let's go like this, and I'm going to make the height 1920 and the width is 1080. I don't need to choose custom frame rate because the frame rate that's sent is usually going to be fine. Control audio via OBS. I do want to select that because I do want the audio that's coming from the phone to come into OBS. Below that, we even have custom CSS. If you're into that sort of thing, we can add in custom CSS to make this thing look exactly like we want. Really fun. Some things you can do. Shut down source when not visible. You might want to have that on if it's not a main guest of the show, but somebody that you are going to be piping in, and you don't want that bandwidth running the entire time they're not on the show. Refresh browser when scene becomes active. That could be useful if you need to get that camera to start. Sometimes you have to refresh it. Refresh cache of current page. The current page is a placeholder, so there's nothing there right now. So I'm going to hit OK, and that's going to add our camera. Notice the red box, right? That's my phone. That's what you're currently is being broadcast from my phone to OBS. And notice the size is very funky. That's because it's not been modified yet. But you can see that this is the live cam that's being sent from my phone. Now, the size is a little bit weird. Let's adjust the size of this guy. And again, this is in portrait mode, so it's a little bit strange because that's the cell phone's portrait mode. If I were to turn the cell phone to the side, notice that this does not get turned to the side, right? So there's two ways to fix that. I could right click on it and go to transform, and then I can actually rotate it counterclockwise like that, and now we have this done in the landscape mode. When the streams start with the cameras, they generally are a little bit fuzzy because what they're doing is they're figuring out how fast they can go. So they're trying to figure out how much data they can send and make it as crisp as possible. So it's kind of negotiating, it's handshaking, it's getting things ready, and it's getting up to speed. So that's kind of something to be aware of when you're adding these cameras into OBS, that they have the ability to get up to their full potential, but it takes a minute for them to kind of run. So that's something good to be aware of. Now, a couple things. So let's see here. I'm gonna put this back here like this, And I'm going to transform this back to how it was. And so it's like that. Okay, so then there's the camera, right? Now this is just in the preview. This is not in the full running thing. So until I hit transition, now it's on the full running thing. If we're streaming, if we're recording, that would be live now. Now, there's a million fun things you can do with your cameras. One of the things that I find is very useful, we can go into our camera here and we can go to filters. Now, we looked at this earlier. There's audio effects and effect filters, right? And we talked about how the audio effects and the effect filters generally meaning video. So let's hit plus on this. Now, here's something that's incredibly useful that I find really neat for making this thing be something that you can use to create all kinds of fun things. So let's hit image mask / blend. I'm going to hit that. And it's asking me to name the specific effect. If I wanted to, I could name it, but I don't need to. I'm going to hit OK. And here we have a list that's showing up, allowing us to change the effect, image mask blend. We have some choices. Alpha mask, based on color channel or alpha channel. Blend, based on multiply, addition, or subtraction. So we can do some fun things to the video there. However, what we need is a mask. So a mask is very simple. If you're not aware, it's basically just one solid color. Here we go. I just created a black with a transparent background. But you can also do black and white. You could have white show what the camera, the area of the screen that you want it to show, or you can have blacks to designate what you want, what area of the camera to show. All right, let me hit OK. Notice that this is a circle mask, and right now it's in the center of this thing right here. Right now it's looking for color. It's the alpha mask color channel is selected. Let's go to alpha channel instead. And you notice it reverses it. So now it's just what's in the circle. Let's see if I hit close here, and this is just the area of the camera that will be shown. So everything else is transparent. So if you wanted to, for example, you could have your participants be masked out except for the whatever shape you designate. If you want a star-shaped camera, if you want a camera that's shaped like an ice cream bar, if you want it to look like the person's head is inside a piece of broccoli, whatever the hell you want to do. So we can do that. We can move this all the way around. You could have one person that's just overlording the entire show up here, and maybe has a graphic around them that's like the judge or something like that, and they just get to watch the show and make faces or whatever. So that's pretty fun. You can have your cameras imported from OBS Ninja. You can apply masks to them as one option of a fun thing you can do. Let's see what else we can do with it. Let's go back into filters and let's hit our plus here. Is there anything else we can do? Is there anything else that's worth doing? Let's turn off the mask. So now we're back to the full screen camera on there, right? And let's hit plus. We can do chroma key, right? You can see I have a green screen in the background. I don't currently have that on or rolled down, so I'm going to leave that for now. But if I wanted to cut out the background, I could choose whatever color I want to cut out and change all of my chroma key settings in here to kind of modify whatever I want. I can make it scary or I can make it newsworthy, whatever way I want to do this stuff. Color spill reduction takes out the saturation and desaturates it. Smoothness kind of modifies the colors for it. Similarity makes the whatever the color selection is, makes it more or less. Of course, brightness, contrast, gamma, opacity, all this stuff is stuff that you've probably used before. So that's chroma key. We can do that with any video. Let me hit plus here. We can do cropping / padding. That's a different way to do cropping. That lets you designate what exact dimensions you want to constrain your video to. This is a lot less flexible than the masking, where that you have the ability to choose the different shapes, masks that you can create. This one is like dependent on the exact numbers. So I'm cutting 500 pixels off the top. I'm going to cut another 500 off the bottom. Notice that it's changing the thing on the left and the right side at the same time. Let me hit transition. So there we go. That's in the same thing. So I'm modifying the cropping of it, and it's allowing me to change the size of this, but it's changing it live on both sides. If I remove the cropping and padding, it goes back to the regular size on both screens. Let me hit plus one more time. And is there anything else that's worth, well, sharpen, but that's going to just make it look kind of weird because you can turn the sharpness way up and it kind of just gives you an effect on there that you can enjoy or not. But yeah, so hopefully this gives you, and I'm going to close the camera on my phone, although, oh, well, no, it was still going for a second, but it stopped. Okay, I thought it was like they changed it so it's going now, even when the phone screen is closed. I didn't get to talk about audio as much as I wanted to, but let me just give you one little bit on audio. Audio is coming into the mixer from my phone, and you can see right here where the bars are moving right now. It is still recording audio from that OBS camera on my phone. You'll notice that on audio, you have the ability to do a little gear to kind of change some properties. You have this where you can mute it and it will cut out the audio completely. And you have a volume slider where you can change that. Now, of course, the little gear, of course, will let you do filters like we talked about previously. You can add audio filters on. And notice it brings up the exact same feed of the exact same camera because that's how it works. You got the exact same, this feed has audio and video. So it's going to allow you to change the audio effects on it if you want to. You can do some weird things or fun things or things that help the sound of the audio, whatever you want. Let's close that. So yeah, you can add audio filters to it as well. One thing that you should know, if I hit advanced audio properties, that's going to bring up a list. And right now that's only one item, but it's going to bring up a list of every single item that you have providing audio inside of OBS. So in there, you have the ability to change different aspects of your audio, but also notice right here where it says audio monitoring, in order for you to hear the audio of a thing, you have to make sure that your monitor is turned on. So that's a very important thing. Over here you have tracks. That's much more concerned with recording your audio in OBS and how that works. And if you'll notice in the bottom left, it says active sources only, and that's checked. If I uncheck it, it's not going to change because we don't have any other sources in here, just that camera. So the audio, it's almost like I could give an entire 2-hour thing on just the audio. And as you can, plenty of things in here I have not addressed. I didn't think it was going to be a complete, ground up OBS thing. However, hopefully this gives you enough to start making some cool stuff in OBS. In addition to that, I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm going to be doing some more OBS specific stuff down the line. I may be doing another like beginner workshop and then maybe adding into some more complex stuff as it goes. Any questions about what we went over today? Anything that is unclear or anything that you're just curious about or anything? Cool. Well, this is the Planet Discord that you're in right now, and we have a bunch of stuff going on in here all the time. If you're ever interested, this is where we run our digital classes. We have all of our digital classes in here. Right now, you're in the Planet Digital Shows channel, which is giving a this is a channel that's was recently created for all of our streaming stuff to kind of talk and coordinate. Hasn't been used too much yet, but we do our Saturday night movie thing here. We play games. There's tons of people always looking for different games to play and stuff. VR, coordinating, all sorts of stuff. And if any of you are interested in having your own show in our Planet Discord, there's a built-in audience. So that's something fun to do. One other thing, the very last thing. If you wanted to, instead of streaming, instead of recording, if you wanted to instead stream to something like Discord, here's what you would do. You can right-click anywhere on your program window, and you can hit windowed projector, and notice what pops up. It's a little thing that is basically what it's representative of your live stream. So this window is going to be whatever you're currently streaming. And let me give you a thing to see. Let's go to the Strange Cinema thing, because that's what I do for it anyway. Where did my projector go? Oh, do I have to recreate it now that I switched? I guess I probably do. Windowed projector, there it is. So notice we got that little guy, right? And if I wanted to show just the feed instead of the whole thing, I can switch my screen. Oops, I should have switched it instead of turning it off. I'm sorry. But there is the feed from the windowed projector. You will not be sending audio to share until you turn on media source. So media source on this is the name of this file that's playing.
What is it?
And you'd only be able to hear it if that is something you're hearing on your computer. Is the way it's set up. But yeah, OBS is a ton of fun. It allows you to do all kinds of crazy things. And yeah, I love using it to create different shows and different things. There's so many possibilities. I mean, it is pretty much at the point where any of us with this software could create the highest quality television programming. I mean, you can do things that are equivalent to CNN, Jimmy Kimmel, any show that you can think of with the proper graphics and video support. You can do anything. With the news show, we're talking about doing stuff like having live on the street reporters that are talking to in-studio news personalities. So you can have somebody on the street with a camera and have them filming somebody, and that's being sent to an OBS computer somewhere. And then you can even have their audio that's a whole other thing, but that's another thing you can do, is have their audio interact with the person that's in studio. They can hear them, and then you can have, like, basically just like your own news station if you wanted to. That's an example. So this is a kind of an amazing program that gives you the ability to create some stuff that can kind of blow some people's minds as far as what we're able to do on streaming nowadays. So yeah. Jump into the Discord, stay in the Discord, join it. I announce things through here all the time. I'm not really on Facebook much nowadays because I find it a weird place. But you can get a hold of me through Discord, through email. MikeMcG@planetant.com is my email. You can contact me that way. I'm just, I'm an employee of the Planet Ant, so I'm always working on different things for them. I teach the classes there if you have any questions about those. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So thank you guys for jumping in. It's great to have a good audience. Well, I unmuted you, Revy. There we go. Okay. I thought I heard feedback for a second, but I guess not. Anyways, any comments or questions or anything like that? Well, in that case, thank you guys. You guys have a great night. That was fun. Thanks very much. I'll see everybody later. Woo!